야야 다들은 같이 아니 야jar tarji marite je Gampopa je yalika lamchorin chinchawake any sunchu de marin beji the method the descendant roya is.
So we'll be continuing on with our teachings on the supreme precious garland of the supreme path by the incomparable Gampopa.
Tatin duzane telayang anin di chude lama jupe chu jupe salab chu ani machu Kagyu pala ani nyamli salab jupa nyamli jupa mugu jupa the jupa pa ma chewaji yudu zane ani chude matun la hona chun cheba boke na ya lama la sola tap ani loma na be na ya ani chumani la hona ani lama jupa namla ani dorjin changni rembeji de telo naro mapa mala Gampopa ni rembeji de ani sola tap na ani yabo yore is.
So these teachings that we're attending to, they are of a lineage, and they are a blessed lineage. It's a practice lineage, and it's a lineage of faith and devotion. And that being the case, it's appropriate for us to make prayers, requests to the gurus of the lineage, from Buddha Vajradhara up through all of these lamas of the Kagyu lineage.
You know, actually, the Kagyu lineage, I don't know how many American people here I want to see first. Okay. Actually, this teaching I focused for the California people, first beginning. I can teach the Tibetan people anytime, you know, it's very convenient. I can teach without translate. But this teaching is I focused for my student in California most. I want to know how many people show up today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you do
24.
Okay, it's today, that counter jang, today do Zane, that Chini counter can't say by in a dambo, Gung Long Jua the Pe Masiki Chimbo, Pe Zachimbo, yes.
Whatever Dharma practice we do, it's so important to set your motivation before.
Oh yeah. Samsanje Tam Jejong Yere Danjin Kuru Jamse Chabda Katin Somba Mibe Pangon Tinjin Lama Tambe Shabje Dama Mibalang Govera de Ekube San Sashin Jabse Jo Jusin Jala Paranze de So Namda Churum Zame Sajela Tenzin Bamir Long Benzi Shiram Yet Enoi Chugun Saratum Jodon Kundrube Gele Anzo Nindo Jimbe Paya Limandre Lodri Jimbe Jugun Denis Trapa Jimbe Jumder Jiande Loza Jimbe Shavlang Anza Nimde Jimbe Kuda Zene Jia Kapje Jimbe Lamani Paranze Zundre Jimbe Drube Janzinzi Repa Jimbe Shavla Solva and Tiba Jimbo Rencho Yonsa Saja Jimbe Tobang the Gentile Jimbo Kadanyam Barada Ningon Jimbe Shavla Solva and Chivzen Kalan Chirab Jinkoroje and Zebe Don Derzalin Geratimba Kune Sanzebe Kajurumbo Jelang Science Partindo Jin Chaware Kunjabda Lama Kalma Abba Jikuru Kunj Enjones Ye Banjur Yedan Namjurma Tile Kunjesi Bowanja Jujong Bejin Jamdal Namjursi Jekipin de Don Darmi Tuji Joman Jambara Dorjing Ala Wanjurshi Lodripam Sanyi Durzida Tinji Jamsoron Sonzi Bejin Panjo Shana Bemorong Sansa Omin Chiji India Popdan, Desum Sanji Kunji Wani, Rasim Chugun Sum Dunze Ba, Zavalama Lang Sansa. No de Sanji Kundan Yamnayan, Gadin Sanji Kunwe Labang. Zavella me Javla Sovande, Dasun Dovelona Chus. Kanda Sobji Donkin Jitina, the Jilomara Jabakan Soda, the Dreadin Beji Chambe. Simbarande Batam Chender no more Yadamba Lake down the down the Jinke, Drum that American on the on the walk on your ducky Jamba. Tom Jake the Dage Chudi and Majundruan Tadanyam Simchi Tamji, Sija Dohan Tadale Darte, number Tinji Deva, Lana Meba, Yanda Bazoba Sanji Jokom, Bochi, the Nijang Toprasa. A each the Tambuchu Samondini, Tujin the Sine, Nyamsalambar, Gio, Nyambagoni, Sintar.
O benevolent Guru, who is in essence all Buddhas of the past, present, and future, with great devotion I prostrate to you and go for refuge to you with my body, speech, and mind. Please grant your blessings to be cared for by you inseparably in this lifetime and all of my future lives. Clean ground of pure ethical discipline, beautified by mountains of unfathomable samadhi, illuminating all things with wisdom light of the sun and moon, Supreme Buddha who accomplishes the welfare of all, please bestow virtue and goodness. Your mandala expanding throughout space and knowledge of all things, beautiful thousand-fold light striking the lands of trainees, fully illuminating all of Buddha's teachings in their entirety. With devotion I prostrate to the great jewel of the Kagyu. O glorious and precious root Guru, please take seat of lotus at my heart. Caring for me in your great kindness, please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind. Equal to all Buddhas in qualities of realization, yet surpassing all Buddhas in kindness to me. I pray at the feet of my root Guru, O protector, please turn the minds of myself and all beings towards the Dharma. All you who have become disciples of the Sugata's, those gone to bliss, throughout the billions of worlds of the 10 directions, all of you who wish to hear the Dharma raining down here and now, may you come here. In languages of devas, nagas, and yakshas, languages of kumbhandas and human beings, in the sounds of whatever beings exist, in every language, I shall teach the Dharma. Please listen well with the motivation of bodhicitta, thinking all mother sentient beings equal to the extent of space must by all means attain unexcelled, eternal bliss of perfect, complete Buddhahood. To accomplish this, I shall listen carefully without distraction to the Mahayana teachings being given here and put them into practice.
Hola, so that dilla. Any, what's it rain? The Nyamde, Yanja Chutunchik. The Narangun, the Mashi, Jusua, the Chiransugune, Nyam, the Ninja Yua. Naransu Nikan, the Pemasikawa Zambo, Sonam Chimboris.
So for us to have the opportunity to continue on with these teachings, have the continued opportunity to practice them is our great good fortune. We have great merit, positive energy to be able to do this.
The day to Tane, that Dilam was a Chusia, the Kandakachimbo in Batin Sancturam de la Sangupia, J. Kate Songainaya, and its censorship de Mili, censorship of Meli. Angusum Simang at Juntonde at the Rindoa, Pena, the son of Sopat, Lapard America. That must be Sangupi Pamjor. Hajang Yajichimbo Sonurite, Sink Devateni, Land of Yuri, Sink Donati Chiren Rode, and Nessa Chad Yuri.
So we can see with our own valid, direct perception how important Dharma is for our times. Because no matter how much advancement there is in the external world, facilities and technology, as there is so much in the West, in America, there's such great wealth, and yet the inner state of mind of beings is not fulfilled, is not full of happiness, and the suffering of beings and their torment and misery just becomes greater and greater.
Tandi Tane Sanji Chumdi Deke Loni to Ngabjak Hona Dendrichik Sinre Ya Taiwan Atu Sungubi Pamjon Dendrichike Capte to Kayan Yu Marida Masita Sungubi Pamjor Yarjin Royo Mari and Singi Dechi Yuri in a Sanji Chumdi de Capte Duni Mount Palani Sungubi Pamjor Sungubu Yarje draw cups and it may sing Kala and the Dunga Mambochi Yoris. You might not double cups of song you capted it, and you might not double cups at the youngeries. Capte Duina and the Chunyam Sevaina, and it seemed Dutton Row, seemed mean row, choosing at the Chano Grease or the song you.
So at the time of Buddha, there was nowhere near the outer technological advancement such as we have these days, and yet there was some happiness, more happiness. But Buddha foresaw that in the future there would be a time when there was more wealth, more advancement in the external world, but that there would be great misery of the beings. There would be a time of degeneration, of 5 degenerations. And at that time, the Dharma would be like a nectar or a medicine for the beings.
Oh, the Nidutane. The Kangla Sugubi Pamjok Yarjewa Telan, Sangadechi Ladeva, Pena, the Yartunji Jakab Yarjechin Jakab Mambochila Sangatu, Benson Leandoa, the Nidutane, Wanda China, Consa Changunjim Choke, you don't lorry, and the Dharam Salan Jakashuli Gabs. The Chura Mount Bala, no so back of Metasotisla. Sim like Shibdishida Yomaris, Kainsina. 그 성읍이 밤저도 야진 로치에 되잖아요. 밤저 침보요 되잖아요. 아니 되게 semla 답생로네. 강아요리 시들이 되잖아요. 저랑 그때서 출시에 탐나. 머리가 줄어야 생을 되지를 해서 뜬다 봐이나. 야보요리 손은 갑자기 갈 때도 송요.
When I came to India for the first time and met with His Holiness the Dalai Lama in 2005. At that time, he spoke to me saying, with all of this advancement in Western countries, there's been too much technological advancement. There's been too much external facilities, and it will create great problems and suffering for beings. So it would be good if you could teach some Dharma for them.
tindidu tane ngazu böge sachaane na nangamo reina sungbi yarje hajetende yo maride sela pe masi shibde pe masi semla pe devachimbo o nangamo ina de chade yorisi.
So previously in Tibet, there was not much technological or external advancement, but there was a lot of peace and happiness in the minds of beings.
어딘데도 자네 땅아주 즉 생그 된자 양다바지 그 생데 지지 양다바지 고요나 아니 담배 취토라 아니 투상검섬 세네르베 진데 특바사나 잠초는 저를 송요리 특바는 시마사한들 가서 특바 망보 지사원 있는 잠초를 차거리 베티나이 생그 토라야 투상검섬 취그 토네 특바사바나지 갈래 니시 사데바이나 아니 남직 주랑 그 셈들라니 대지기 잠촌나지 잠촌나오지 다 요야요리시.
So if we really wish to experience ultimate permanent happiness, then the means for that is through listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma. So we should just continue doing that, like adding drops of water into a vessel. It said that drop after drop takes to create the ocean. So continuing with this practice of listening, contemplating and meditating on the Dharma. Let's keep adding more drops of nectar to the ocean. So like that, when we keep adding those drops of our Dharma to our mind, then that will lead to this ultimate happiness.
Yeah. Lasso, any tongue a mar beji the man doing that, the ring as a chutu, Jockson body, the me be chupjes at dinner let this.
So I'll go on now with reciting the teaching. We've come to the 13th set of 14 useless things.
Militomne tambe chumidin pane, Rinpoche ling the scene, don't lose about and ratty to him. Sugar shonen, chintop sipane, semale, mamila chuatan, ratty to him. Demi chumze jatong the nebane, Jamchun ram the condor shawatan, ratty to him. Zawa ye, that the nimble masonwane, mason chune, tareta, dombo, thinking the jabatan, ratty to him. Newman, but nimble mason mengane, nepe, minja topatan, ratty to him. You told the market was tiny like Jampa nature Katon Shebadan Rati to him. Control Yoju Mazimba Langne, Jimba Simbane, Loba Churju Badan Rati to him. Simjila Neba Jane, Concho Chubane, Beisha, Ji and Malate Wadan Rati to him. Cinderandu, Chunchudang, Zuba Tandu Libane, Shile, Shivan Jabadan Rati to him. Chindi Nindata, Nikon Dupe, Gava Lapchin Sibane, Yinja Nova Rinpoche, Prava Dopa Chikam, Panzi Dopo Chik the Jivatan Rati Temi. Mandu Tujang, Ranju Tamar de Libane, Mimba, Joni Jisimbatan Rati Temi. Danga Kela Nyamyomi Bane, Super Panzu, Demi Mibatan Rati Temi. Rangi Chuja de Matopar, Yin Chushibane, long way, long Tipatan Rati Temi. Table somewhere, Nyamyola, Chodazone, Nelo Tumatovane, Ragina Ragin at the Cardis Lamorido, Ragina sitting in Batandati, Tumi, then a Tumi Bechuche, Yuji.
And just to mention, this translation that we're using, we have great gratitude to Lama Yeshe Gyaltso and Laura M. Roth. These are the 14 useless things. Having acquired a human body not to recollect genuine Dharma is like returning empty-handed from an island of jewels and is useless. Having entered the gate of Dharma to lead a worldly life is like a moth flying into a lamp flame and is useless. For someone with no faith to abide in the presence of a great teacher of Dharma is like dying of thirst on the shore of an ocean and is useless. Dharma that does not remedy the four roots and fixation on a self is like an axe placed beside a tree and is useless. Instructions that do not remedy the kleshas are like bags of medicine carried about by an ill person and are useless. Training the tongue in words whose meaning has not entered one's mind is like the recitation of a parrot and is useless. To take by stealth, banditry, and deception that which has not been given to one and subsequently give it away is like washing sheepskin in water and is useless. To harm sentient beings and then offer them to the three jewels is like cutting off a child's flesh and offering it to its mother and is useless. To undertake deception and patience in order to benefit oneself in this life is like a cat stalking a mouse and is useless. To perform great acts of virtue with the wish of acquiring fame and service in this life is like exchanging a wish-fulfilling jewel for a morsel of food and is useless. To have heard much and yet have an ordinary mind is like a physician struck down by illness and is useless. To be learned in instruction and have no experience is like a treasury of riches to which there is no key and is useless. To teach Dharma without having realized it oneself is like the sightless leading the sightless and is useless. To hold experiences rising from methods to be supreme and not to search for the true nature of things is like taking brass to be gold and is useless. Those are the 14 useless things.
Lasso. And the Kartang is Sambala Churangla Imirta in Joshua.
Jorson.
That the email say, Kata email I sent to you yesterday the email. Look at the email. That Dinana Ne Kartang Karishu in Sina Militomne Tambichu Medimba ne Rumbochi Ling the Simba. Rumbochi Ling the Sine, don't lose it that Seba than that to me. That it's a gang de Dylan turned daily chick any Condologin Taeke Zeyajuk Lama Jambukanana, kind of sondo sedu. Damjor top jam Metset on Zenki. To meet sent the Saveta the Ying. Dunchin Tapa de la Leluchir. Noru Lingne Lacton Lodger Pe. Lamanchin to Junior de Zeg. Militon the Indra but Singelobs. Otatini Jusachipanda Churan or the de Machi La Yavaina Sabak.
So related to the first of the useless things, having acquired a human body, not to recollect genuine Dharma is like returning empty-handed from an island of jewels and is useless. Jamgon Logdur Taye said something very similar in some notes that Rinpoche has prepared for today. Though I've obtained the freedom and riches, I waste this life, perpetually distracted by meaningless activity, lazing in my pursuit of liberation, the highest goal. I return empty-handed from this island of jewels. Guru, watch over me, swiftly look upon me with compassion. Bless me that my human birth may have meaning.
Tanaji, Tanging Huma, the Shabbat Churank jury, that Sholokasin and that ticket and the Jai Kalat and the Chitata newsletter, email and a lepkadwa, or the chicken nana. Can't say you received in Trotany, you didn't Trotany. Metsi Gudung Oma de Kanyimba, Shijo Hajan Karchi. Nipper Cavalutin Zambo the Linji Nipper Capsu. Cindy, Dogu Zamji Chi the Pechu Sena, Metsi Gudung Oma de Lapai. Then don't the mail Lutin Yinjang. But on Rajo Mipe. But on Rajo you meet le, don't Martin Rota Chipines. What did you do? That net and the chip.
Rinpoche has written in his calendar Dharma that he prepared, which I translated, where he said, it is very important to know the real purpose of human life. Having gained this difficult to find life form this once, if you use it only to obtain food and clothing, the real purpose of human life is lost. Then even though you have taken a human rebirth, you are really the same as an animal, except with a fur and horns.
Tatin Dinani, Tangbote, Mililinji, Militop the Tambichumidin Bane, Seate. What's a Mexi Gudung or Mother Carrerisi, Tatamboting at the Sound of Tayarindo, Metsu Gudung or Mother Carrerisi, What's a Yanja, and this in Corde at Marawa. She saw the Sound of Tawaina. Youngson Koal and Cham, Youngson Koal and Cham, Youngson de Leon de at the Rivet, de Marawa. She saw the Sound of Tawaina, the Junchi Tapsis or Golisson. How are the Junchi?
So, what is the real purpose of us having a human life? From the perspective that we know from Dharma, it's not to simply wander in samsara, to go through the same samsaric experience over and over. Rather, real purpose of our human life is to sever the continuum of that ceaseless samsaric rebirth.
That telling at you top carry your citizen, top the lamb, chickle mato, me what the carry citizen, Bambi chuka lamland drone, any yamlin sene, any dancing, ranching, dancing, and in the chashi down to Mola Sobake. Give a Toma me pan it up at the sink tola Chang Jiene. Korang to dinner day at the Pajampu down. Di Nangtini, young up Nelok Tawa, Demba. nguyu nature ya ten thoya te hakoya de kechi morwa.
So as for how we could go about doing that, I really don't see any other method than that contained in the Holy Dharma, because through that method, this self-cherishing, self-grasping mind, these delusions of hatred, greed, jealousy, pride, and so on, which we are overwhelmed by, which we are just in the thick of, can only be countered by a perspective which sees the reality, truth, the actual nature of things. So it's so important for us to do this so that we can cut through this web of delusions and so on that we're caught in.
Laso. Ta de ka tangbo de che. Ni ba de ke chugur shung nen chintap si ba ne. Sema le malmela chungwa da de de me. Ta de la ma chu ge nani da chu si de za ne da cha lo si ne da nga da o ji na da hwa se. Nen chim ne chim me ba ra de song. Cei de la da ha la se. Ni cei me la ni ji ba chi mang bo wang ke yang ko wa la man cham ne. Ko wa la cham se ya de. 침탑세네. 니나니한테 송도가 침탑세야 돼. 좋아도 지미다 남의 유지. 담보 다화세 체들라. 니 유만 침탑세. 근데 지세야 돼. 삼인도 아니 저랑 세말레 마멜은 총안 안시 차가요. 다때 지금 담보 대송다.
Now in the second line, having entered the gate of Dharma to lead a worldly life is like a moth flying into a lamp flame and is useless. So for someone such as me, who took ordination in Tibetan Buddhism in the first part of my life, if I were to give that up and enter into a householder's life where I was dealing with wife, family, household responsibilities, and so on, and lose that chance to really focus on Dharma practice, it would be like, as if I was a moth flying into a flame that, with full intention, I would be committing suicide by flying into a flame like a moth.
The danger that Sema left in a young Korange Nekap chicken, Tarsirchik Lani Korange Zula Chana, Sema left it, Malmeka wool Chana. Malmeka wool Chan, do Zane, Telen Chong do, make a Tsigu at the Hamawa Chine, Korantel Chongo, Betty Nanjin, Narang Toyang, Koal and Chamsek, Jin that the Jin Chunjo, Latine, and Koal and Chamdodo, Koal and Chamse, Gangan Chekador, Bena. Jack you could say la, Nyango say la tambo kala chunchonji dane, and it tapshi sene, and in Yake, Jack you and Tonko you marry, Kala del Chan and Chong de Zane, and it Jack you could sing go to you. Betina in Dinania, Mamel, Semale Mamel and Chowatang, Nya Jack you go batang, Lambo che, and in Dam the Simbas, Lambo che, a Kotawa chimboli capsule, Chunan at the Sine. Korang samdi rexaservatila revation de tane ni hon damna na ma sane ati sukol mai chishute karese koriji lutsor ke de chi tang wangbo gong rexa dewa chungchung chi la chane anin tarto ko doha chimbo ji yongse otendri doha.
So this shows how we can be attracted to such superficial insignificant things that lead us into great harm. The moth is attracted to that light of the candle. It has no idea that it's going to be burned up, incinerated when it reaches it, but just because it likes that shape of that light of the candle, it's attracted to it. Or like a fish who sees the bait on a hook. They want that little bit of food, but then they're caught on the hook and die. Or like an elephant who wants to cool down and sees a nice swamp, and sees the water, but then jumps into it and ends up sinking into the mud, dying. So, for such insignificant little pleasures that we chase, we lead ourselves into great suffering and misery.
Demi chimse je tong ne ba nes jamchin dam to kong de wa dan da de mi.
For someone with no faith to abide in the presence of a great teacher of Dharma is like dying of thirst on the shore of an ocean. It's useless.
Je tang ngang zu chi de sang ge tui la chu ba che de din ba ha jiang ha jia ga le kha bo le da chu ba che de din ba jing ne zha ne ge chu ba che de din ba ane chu ba che de din ba ji yo ne de ge chu che de din ba sung hin de ha jia ga le kha bo le da.
These days, it's extremely difficult to find true Dharma practitioners, fully qualified Dharma practitioners. And beyond that, a fully qualified Dharma practitioner who is teaching, who will teach. It's so rare to find that these days.
Oh, that Koran solo go yuri si and bena Koran zu ngola ma de chu xian kin ji. Chu xian kin ya tsina da so ryun ge na ha mi chu xian kin de za de chi ko de ge ani san ji zhong din de ge kan de song na de na yin se ne chu le za wa ni de ju ju ma dang wa ji ne. Gan sa Koran ga ho na da du ko na da ko ga ri ji ne ji. Chu za wa ni de ju ju ma dang ne ma 소르준 게 산지에 간데 송요마 소수 잡을라면 강알 가르 송선 디나이지네 출了세레 장르 메세베 추 다마 송데니 지당 아니 출了세레 세네 추데 아니 롱바게 밤주다 롱바게 리용다 롱바게 록당르 뜨니 송데 나바니도 와시.
So I could say two kinds of teachers. One who coaxes the people along, really looks at what they like and tailors the Dharma to fit their culture and to be attractive to them. Whereas another kind of teacher holds to the tradition precisely and will teach, as well as they can, exactly as Buddha taught, keeping the teachings the same, and passing them on exactly as they've heard from their root guru. And if the people like to hear it, fine. If they don't like to hear it, then that's so be it. But they don't tailor it to try to, attract or show off or make the teachings fit for the audience. They don't pollute them. There's one kind of teacher that pollutes the teachings in this way, I feel, and another type that does not pollute them.
추시야데 그두응어마 가래리 가르치는 추시에게 요리세 다때가 저 시야데 깨친 버리도와 가르치듯 추시에게 요리세도 자데 로마데 셈도 주치 당워치데 로마데는 베지도 셈도 주치 당워치데 시에게 요와 근데 지그 추시에 고아이나 추시엘이 값을 추치다 dim바지게 산지가 간데 송유와 나이다 소수 잡을라면 가래 송유바 말한 그 냠니 간데세요와 데 차장데 nem바 당보시는 시에네 Dene loma de juju tangri mato. Churang tambo hieli kapsa loma ko te ngal go homendo de chi she hose anda chike. Churang chu de juju tang yawa ina. Loma te la korang kamla membalen tende de chu she de go ina. Ko juju tang go ese mendo korang te homari ha ko yuro. Korang ri yonglan de de ada korang ki shi de ni je indu jane. O dende indu jane chu se ya de sele tang ne ma se wa che ne. And she had a package in Boriyasi.
Because we have to think about what is the real purpose of teaching the Dharma. It's to bring transformation, it's to bring change into the minds of the disciples or the trainees. And if we tailor the teachings to fit exactly a person's view, say they don't want to hear that, then don't talk about that. If you fit everything into their culture and perspective, then what need is there for them to change? It fits. It doesn't really, the teachings have been changed to fit them rather than they having to look directly at the teachings, and that's the only way that we can really bring that transformation and that change to the minds of people, is by presenting the teachings just exactly as Buddha and as our gurus gave them.
Lasso, the Hindu Zane, that Dinane Kareshaki Yurisi Sane, Chumze Jatong the Nepe, Chumze Jatong the Ne, say the Chumze Seatake, Lama Cheda Dimba, Nyami Cheda Dimba, Chusunkin Cheda Dimba, Gavishini de la Coco Yuri. Then reject and some pe Kale Cabo. Hindu Zane, Din down the daily cups, Churanka Tisani keeps on Langne, Chuma Yuaina, Churan, Sochimbo Chicken Rana, and so
if we were to encounter such a great qualified teacher and practitioner and teacher in this lifetime, but not take advantage of that, not profit from that encounter, then it is like dying of thirst on the shore of an ocean. So it's said very clearly in these instructions.
차도 디젤 자유리 뇌차 시당 또 차도 디젤 자유리 디 이게 님보라 마송을 추대 주랑게 줄때 뇌차 침보요 시당 침보요 또 침보요 차도 침보요 될이 추제게 주랑게 섭다 때는 추그 남조 가르치 세와 있나양 딸에당 신이 동보질을 제 동보니 냠도 야다와도 주바레스 딸에테 그거네스는 신도 제고요 왔다 딸에테 신 제지 차대요 딸에테 가르치듯 자니 아니 삼바단 인제다 또니까 따와나지 누구 님보 차대요 신동대 더 자와이제 차대요 근데 이제 자니 님보 당 반사니데 냠도 로 망보 같이 대와 있나양 문간 로트고요 말이지
Dharma that does not remedy the four roots and fixation on a self is like an axe placed beside a tree and is useless. So there are various enumerations of four roots. In this particular case, the four roots would be attachment, aversion, ignorance, and jealousy. And if we were to practice Dharma in such a way where we don't really apply the remedies, it's like placing an axe against a tree and not using it to actually chop down the tree. The axe is for chopping down the tree. So what does that axe represent? It represents the actual remedies to those deluded states of mind, compassion, insight into selflessness, love, and so on. So if we have all these teachings, but we don't apply them, and we don't really integrate them into our being, then it's just like, they're there, we can see them, they're together, but they're not being used in any way that's beneficial.
라소 애닝아바데 뉴몬버 님벌 마송은 맹아네 네베 민자 독바다나데 되미시 뉴몬버 님벌 마송와 송들이 다 취용수 독바 참아데 뉴몬거 님벌은 롱거야데 패키지 뭐래 취카시 뉴몬거 카톡 님벌 롱거요리 오니까 따와 베나 동바니다 다음에 바다 지고나 당진기 님벌 응기 님벌 롱거도와 무슨 님벌 롱거요리 그 취카시에 아니 꼬라 잡네 아니 유그 토니양 아당 무슨 님벌은 로 맡아와 있나 사다진치 넘바다지 뜬 몰란다지 뜬 데와 있나 아니 마음 빨라 갈래니 돈이 그님 볼은 로터야 근데 용거 요리 다 강다제 추 강다 강이나 양만아 무지님 볼은 로터야 니몽그님 볼라 양만아 유그 돈이님 볼은 로터야 그 침보리시 근데 이봐 송장 디님 볼라 마송외 추랑 그 맹아세야다 그치 항상 칸이 라면다 사자 침보세야다 쪽바 침보세야다 주세야다 맹아세야다 왕세야다 다 맹트라면다 즉복가 제다네 시대와 이나양 내배 민자 토스 내빠빼 송세들 몇째 그 코랑라 같이 고고 그미 코랑 그 락발 큰네 칼라 마주와다 집바래 있다 코랑라 님보 그 미데 코랑라 락발에 요리데 코랑 따로 내바 나는 셔르고 요리다 어빼 디나 인진 디나니 대송고 요리다
Rinpoche, kaya goning karsumba tanta chebare.
당가 도지데 가완도 양가 도지데 근데 도지 치야데 요요히나 삼삼지 때
Goning karsumba. Kaya sig dampo de tensonghe.
야야야야야 도지 쳐요 그게 I also forget what I say 근데라 예 추간다 간이나야 차마 뉴몬 니볼로
Toshina. Not Toshina.
양만은 의그 님볼로 양만은 주그 님볼로네
Toshina.
하고서 와
Instructions that do not remedy the kleshas are like bags of medicine carried about by an ill person and are useless. Okay, so it's so important to remedy the kleshas, these delusions, these afflictions of the mind. And all of the Dharma is meant to remedy those delusions, either in a direct way or an indirect way. Direct remedy to delusions is that wisdom, insight into selflessness, which directly remedies the ignorance, and it's the root of all of the delusions. Whereas other practices of Dharma, of recitations and prayers and prostrations, they're meant to indirectly, gradually lead us to those direct remedies. Because otherwise, if we have, fancy sounding teachings of Dzogchen and Mahamudra and instructions and initiations, that we aren't actually using to remedy the delusions, it's just like carrying around a bag of medicine that we never take. We're sick, but we never take the medicine that we have.
That's all. And it was the you told a market Tanya Jang, but then they took carton saber than that to me. They aren't what you can.
Next, training words whose meaning has not entered one's mind is like the recitations of a parrot and is useless. This is quite similar.
Tandinani Mamboji Nganda, which is a Turpelli Mamodo. Around the Tursam under the Wakain, you told a market Tanya Jang was, Tanya Jang was in a any young down Pechatang, any low Mamboji la Pechatani, any day and senior Balaso, but the low Mambo Chilla Tanya Jang was. Sick down Tanya Lasso, but in the Jangjang, Langon Kona low Mambola to the city of Ina, any day. Neto carton saber than that is, Ben and Neto, San Neto in a young. Ha me or man pay me home Sislamna, Korank or man pay me home Lagodoa. Can it love you? Don't carry in back a hako you, Marva. Betty Naji child of you, is somebody. The tea got in Alagoyarish, Ngala. Chiranzola in a mina Michigan, Ngala church, no dick.
So, this instruction I find particularly directed towards myself. And, training the tongue in words, conventions, the expressions of the Dharma, which I have done, so much of my life, trained, memorized teachings, learned so much dialectical debate, and so on. That if I were to, not apply those in my mind, it would be like the recitations of a parrot. A parrot may be able to say Om Mani Padme Hum, but not know what the meaning of it is. So this is, I feel, admonition and exhortation toward myself to not let all of these words of Dharma that I have learned and memorized during my life not enter my mind or not integrate with my mind.
Yeah. That they could do about it. Control yogi masimba lang the Jimba Sipana, Flora Chulachupa than that it means. But the Flora Chulachupa say the Tada look the rock of Pakpak Zuyalik any law Chula Yuaina, and it's how much Holland on the Kodawa. The day this and a control yogi masimba lang the magic son of masimba lang, and the Jimba Yen Jimba Tanka on the Tanka Yusina, Dreva you marry Sungurita. Imbo you marry, that 20 doa. That the pay Kensachi do that the digital cocoa is.
To take by stealth, banditry, and deception that which has not been given to one and subsequently give it away is like washing sheepskin in water and is useless. So if we were to have a very nice, this kind of sheepskin they're talking about is made from the wool of sheep or goats, and it's fluffy and warm, but if we put it in the water, it's ruined. You can't even use it, right? So if we were to steal and then practice generosity with what we steal, it's useless because there will be no beneficial result that will come from that.
Yang do Kashik Nana Sanjik than the song Yuridan, do Kashik Nana Sanjik Supo Sena Chimbo. Then the Juchibo is a Pantawan in the Jimbaton Madali. Then the Sena Chimbo is a support, then the Sunny, and it come at Tamne. And it could zombie come at Tamne. And it is Juzete, Pango Yom Chung to the Jimbatana, Nipa Mesia, the Chiuri. The Chiuri, that in Edan Karawa.
Now there are some statements in the teachings to the effect of sort of like a Robin Hood sort of work where you steal from the rich and give to the poor, and that's not as bad.
This is the Buddha's text, the Sutra Tina said, that is song.
The Buddha said this in Sutra actually.
Simjil Jibana, Simjil Nubajan, the control and Chubane, Bay Shakiba Malatevatan that it means. The Simjil Nu say a day. Jumsi Karisin is Dinani Simjila, Simjin say at the control say at Sanje say Nila, Chiba Karajaka Yurisitane, Sanje Lekang Omade, Simjil and Nimsi Tutok, and it's Sevejonga. When Amachilla Pechi Yuna, Pechilla Katetseva Yuri, Petina is in Nimsi Tutok, the Sevejonga, the Chad Yuri. Or Tindi into Taning Ranso Simjil Nubachine. Any Sentient and never chicky, Sentient Sheng de Dang, Sanjak Sheng Jin, Tadilan Zine. Market Sentient de Gla, any Nubachi, Yojuchi, Kumachi, Dike, any Sanjela, Yan Chubala Sobat, and the Chiseva Ina. Any Burke Chachi, then a Malatena, Gagamarawa, Petina Chakuri, somebody.
To harm sentient beings and then offer them to the three jewels is like cutting off a child's flesh and offering it to its mother and is useless. So what is the actual job of a Buddha? What do Buddhas do? Buddhas are continually focused on compassion for sentient beings. Throughout the day and night, through 6 periods of divisions of the day and night, they're constantly caring, wishing the best for sentient beings. So, if we were to treat sentient beings in a completely different way, harm them, and then make offerings to the three jewels, we're separating these two. We're separating Buddha from their work. We're separating the three jewels from the actual meaning of what the three jewels are for, is to benefit sentient beings.
Tina Shivalak the song Yuri. Yaki Sanje Xing de Tang, Maki Simjing Xing de Ni, Churang Ngula, Garden Chivala, Chipari Yas, Maki Simjing La Tine, Jampa Tharchin, Zuba Goya La Sopa Churanga Kisan Yogandosi. Yaki Sanje La Tine, Churanga Chosa, Ribajang, or Churanga Yang Kisan, Nicha Yogandosi. The Din to Zani Dwachi Yoganzola Shivalak. Chuki Yaki Sanje La Kuyab Seva Nanji, Maki Simjin La Kuyab Karachi Chigimesita. Shurang Ngula, Pinto Chipari Doasi. Yaki Sanje Xing de Tang, Maki Simjin Xing de Ni, Yurde Ni, Chipari Doasi. Shu Karachi and the Chibaran Jigi Yosi. Yaki Sanje Tong, the Sanje La Kuyabs. Zula Kandalang, the Chusolang, the Sanje and the Jigi Yorata. The Nima turns at the Langaji La Pango Jonani, making Tonko Marwa. The Karachi in the Chicheba Sega Yuri, so Yurita. Yes, why?
So we can take the statement, the verse from Shantideva that applies directly to this. It says, why do we treat sentient beings differently than we treat Buddhas? Because we need both of those. We are benefited greatly by both of these fields. Sentient beings, we can receive great benefit by practicing generosity and patience and so on towards them, not harming them, practice ethical discipline. So we receive great benefit, necessary, essential benefit from doing that. And then in relation to the Buddhas, 3 jewels, we can practice the accumulation of merit, gather the accumulations for enlightenment and purify our negativities. So from both of these fields, we receive great benefit. So Shantideva asks, why do we show such great respect to Buddhas and not to sentient beings, making prostrations and offerings to the Buddhas in the temple? Then we leave the temple and we pass by some beggar and we don't even see them. What is that?
Any Gubadela. Chindi Randu said Sunju the Zuba Tandaliban, Celeste Valenjabana de Dumis.
The next one, to undertake deception and patience in order to benefit oneself in this life, is like a cat stalking a mouse and is useless.
Chindi Randu Sunju the Zuba Tandaliban, Celeste. That the better doing the Yabujin go to Masonda, Dange, a Hakomaso, the Gandajang, Celeste Valenjab.
Perna so lekale, mumbo chaining, he said, dig it on the law.
Chindi Randu Sir Sunju Dang Zuba Tandalibanes. Chindi Randu said the Sondoa, then Randuk said the Sunju the Zuba Tandalins. Randuk said the Sunju Dang Zuba Tandalis, Randu said the Kojachimboyori. Chindi Randuk said the Sunju the Zuba Tandali. Did it also Randu the Payane, Chendi, Yindung Chi the any Zuba Tandalimba, Chu Tandalimba. Sunju Meba, Randu Meba Tony, and it's Soaina, and it didn't Junchi the Dimba Chakayuri. The name that's on the chain the Randu said, and Dina and the Dunga to Woma the Karekogo said, Randu said the secretary. Then the Randu call it Chukne. Slow and Drachabo, Ningio, Banange, Lungake, Geo and Drachabo can let you say why in a Nimbo you marries.
So, which I said this was a little bit difficult, but the main thing is this here, these words, in order to benefit oneself. As long as there's this self-promoting, self-centered kind of attitude, even if you were to practice things that look very nice, like patience and perseverance, it's meaningless. It's not like practicing patience and things that have essence for the benefit of others. Otherwise, it's like we're just putting on a show, and we're doing it, for our own sake.
Oh yeah, this is. Any Jubade, Chidi Nira, Ningun Dube, Gawa Lapchin Sibane, Yinjin Rinpoche, Pravadoba Chikam, Banzin Dobo Chida Jiwadan that it is, Chindeki, that they ordered it Lama Guachis, Sabat and the China, Tang in the Shedana. Chindi Nira, Ningun Dube, Gawa Lapchin Siban, that they are Chipari, Randu Yusik Tola. Any Nirata, Ningerdan, you can Chubi Lasoba, the Degatoni. Dan Nangi Churanka gave a lap chimbokachi sibayinayang. And it telling him boy Mari, security.
The next one's quite similar. To perform great acts of virtue with a wish of acquiring fame and service in this life is like exchanging a wish-fulfilling jewel for a morsel of food and is useless. So again, seeking, performing things that look good, that have the appearance of being something virtuous, positive, but with that self-centered wish for fame or respect, again, it's useless, and it's like having something very valuable but exchanging it for a little piece of food.
Yeah. That telling tune daily getting arcing tam chuju dirchukana. Sholoka Sumba delicata, Kazangachula Imertan you are. That telling tune daily gay. Pinzang Nipakawa, Tobdinder. The mid dupelela, Corana. Set up on one jeep at Salape. In the Chuzumazi Hindan is. And Dinani, Caresondo Siduzane. Eugene Rinpoche, Pravato Wachula Giawatan. Wanzin Dodo Gilia Chibaris. Endinani. Certain Pomani the Gia, certain Doni Gia, Chibarisia, but any Chibaridoa.
So related to this, I added another note for our teaching this day from my advice of Dharma Nectar. That when we've attained this excellent basis, so difficult to find, if we throw it away in meaningless, harmful conduct, we are trading gold for worthless rocks. Don't waste this life. That is my heart advice. So I see the similarity between something that's very valuable on one hand compared to something that's not worth anything.
Yeah. And it you cheat a Mount Tujang, Ranju Tamar de Libane, Mimba Chone Jisimbadan Rati to him is.
To have heard much and yet have an ordinary mind is like a physician struck down by illness and is useless.
Munes in a Mimba Sia, the Koranke Palm Melamite and a Koran Mimba Chade de Zane, Koran na Malo and Rachit and Dinani Sunko Yoroa. Takaisina. Ne the Zawa Kandisi Yungo you meet, Nela Kandisi Chigo you meet the Koranka Chatan Hako you design Bettina shit, and dear Dawat and Galerisha. Among the two Jangs, mainland Khenpo Si, Main Kakuyura, Samichi, Bobion say you listen about that you say, among the two Jang. Any Ranju Tamar de Liba, so the Rang Jude, any Si Tanhangla, and in Khenpo Si Ajik, Main Jitan, Si Zobdala. Any Lamata Chica Condeli to the Chiwachi. Any Tungo Motola, Rangi Jude, Kanzati Jude, Tamar de Lucina, Kanza Tamarawata Chipa, Nambuchula Tani Mayowaka, Magic Jude Chipa Chichang, Chadevaina. Any day, I mean, but Johnny Jisimbadan to me.
A physician is someone whose work is to heal others, someone who understands the origins of sickness and symptoms and those methods for healing. So I find this instruction again directed very much towards myself, because with having heard much, having listened to many teachings, and thus have such great resources of understanding the sources of suffering and problems and the remedies that can be applied to them. If I was to leave my mind in an ordinary state, not apply those things, and then be prey to them myself, it's like a physician who's struck down by illness, is not able to do their work, is prey to their own, what they're supposed to be helping others with.
Yeah, anything you some junior, Danga Lang, Danga Kela Nyamyo me pan super panzu de made that to me. Danga Kela ya Nyamyo me pan Sama Galerija Rachapo shit Melan Rachapo shit Ninjo shit Kanipa. And in Nyamyo me that Nyamyon Senata did any Nyamyon Seate, Nyamning or Malasecurity, Nyamyon Seate, Nyamsun Yon Seate, Dinani, Musser and Beji the Tubasi Sambasi Gomse, Gong Capse, and it's also a top of Julie Chin. All the children be the Yasone, and it tell a Nyamta Topasiate, Nyamto Nika you there, the Richila security. The Richi Mewaina.
To be learned in instruction and have no experience is like treasury of riches to which there is no key and is useless. So again, here are some instructions for me. You know, I have a great deal of instructions, but without experience, it's like a treasure of riches to which there is no key and is useless. So what does experience refer to here? Experience here means actual realizations. You know, the real practice, true practice of the teachings, where we've listened to the teachings, we've contemplated them and meditated on them, and then out of that there's been real experience and practice of the teachings that emerges.
Any choosing take. Rang the chuja to Mato, but Jina Chushi ban a long way long archival than that to me.
This Dharma, without having realized it oneself, is like the sightless leading the sightless and is useless.
There's
so much of this today.
Shira Yamni Sigo Mado Kartan Chu Kodi Terenshi and Rokin and the Mambo Doa.
There's so many that, you know, without having much experience of the Dharma, would like to go out and teach it.
They came here yesterday, they listened yesterday from the teacher, they're going to tomorrow, they teach, they have become the teacher. That's the Mambo Yuri, that's the Dizani, Nag Lama Yuri, Lama Tinchina, Kinchi Kalma Sitins, Konkangala. The Churan Yamnisi at the Peke Chimbori, Sogri, Konkangala, Kaduin and Yaminchis, Kains in the Churan, Maumpala Gigin Chakarawasi. Chuki Gigin Chago, Chuki Gigin Chayate. Kejan Drachapochi here like a pin talk maris. Kanza take a gigin to Julian Yamni Yabochi Yuna, Samba the Ninja Tony Tawa, only Yamnichi Yaboyina. Kejan Drachapo machine and take a pinch at Chibotogaris. The name to Tani Chura Maumpala Gigin Yabochi Zo Sambaina, Tambo Churanga Mune, Lom Mambochil and Yamni Sene. Yamni the Karichi the Chiguri, Yindong Chida. Simjing cheat, Churang Loma cheat. All in the song that they took my mambonga son yons.
So there are some people these days who receive a teaching and then they're ready to go out and give it the next day. So they think, you know, they've received one teaching, so now they become a teacher and they go out and teach, try to teach. I had a guru named Lama Tsepten, who gave me some advice long ago. He says, you need to practice because in the future, you're going to be a teacher. So when you're a teacher, it does no good to be able to just say nice sounding things. You need to have real experience and practice behind it. You should practice hard for many years. Because then you will be able to actually fulfill the function of a teacher, which is what? You know, to benefit others, to benefit sentient beings. And that's the only way that can happen, not by just spouting nice words.
Okay, just example the one. I just example. This is my cup. You can see here. Somebody say, oh, I need the water. Please, could you give me the water a little bit? I am very thirsty. Can you share with us a little bit water? First, you should check how much you have the water in your cup. This is my teacher. Ah.
Nang chu kyang somba tetsayin that tomba do.
Hey, that over there. Ko tomba cha song
I already gave you all my water. Yeah.
den sung go yuri ta kang ta chang tambo randu chuku jarsala sin eni jindong khwa tong ne tok se ya de rota ni ri do wa tambo rang mater na yin dro ka wa mi si jer mo chi tambo rang ju mater wa yin yin kan de sin dro go yuri si ate pe ma si ne ga chimbo ri ya pe ne ga chimbo.
As Jetsong Kappa said, how can we subdue the minds of others if we have not subdued our own mind?
Den de se randu chuku jarsa sin yindong khwa tong ne tok se ya de chek de tambo randu chuku jarsala sin go do wa
They dunda Sonam saying.
randu rangatun chuku jarsala sin Dharma kaya kingdom karsa chuku jarsala sin chad any yindong khwa tong ne tok ne simjin tamjin khwa tong ne tok ne de si go re so.
So it said, having realized Dharmakaya oneself, one is to empty samsara of sentient beings.
Yeah. I do tablet song when Yamyong Chod zone. Nelok you do Machowane, Ragin la Sedens in Badanda de Demi, tablet song when Yamyong Chod zone, Nelok you do tablet song when Yamyong Chod zone. Yeah, they say so.
To hold experiences arising from methods to be supreme and not to search for the true nature of things is like taking brass to be gold and is useless.
And they do not carry shake you the city. Namja Judong around to choose la top down shrub sin you at the Hakoya the package boy.
It's so important for us to understand that Dharma has these two main themes and practices: methods or skillful means on the one hand, and wisdom, insight on the other.
Top seate Karicho cities and top seate Saki chu, Lugi chu, Nag chu, the Sukola, Tapkicha, Sishaki. Shirab chu seate, and indeed nani, Nelokatun and Sorowa, said the Nelokatun, Dinani, Nelokatun Jando, Nelokatun, Shirabri. They carry cities and Tony Tawa, Sanjuk Sin, Singatorius or Chudel Security.
So methods is primarily means the relative practices, conventional practices done with the body and the speech. Rinpoche uses the term zakche, which would mean contaminated practices. Whereas on the other side, there's the wisdom, which is referred to here by search for the true nature of things. That insight into the true nature of things refers to wisdom. So these are practices that are done primarily with the mind. Insight into emptiness and ultimate bodhicitta.
That's all. The name is a top chu yonsu to body shirakotola to lip to go yurisi. Maombala, how could cha yonsu to be chu chamadilla, shiraki jedaba, shiraki zisimba, shiraka hakowaji sene. Pena Corsum Matopa, Sikadwan, Corsum Matopa Siade, how could chatilla Kaduina take zisimbaji or the Nichiko yuri.
So methods, the skillful means, are meant to support wisdom, to enable wisdom, to facilitate realization of wisdom. So they should be in service to wisdom. And so, for instance, if you're practicing generosity, to be thinking about the emptiness of the giver, gift, and receiver. This is the emptiness of the three spheres of an action. Those.
That's you gotta say. Any the pena sakye ki chute men korang la sakye se yuri. Sa se di ma men rowa, nzen rowa, nipa mewa chan rowa la sakye ki chu, te tang ki chari rowa. Ta te hakko ya to ke jibori ndo da.
So this term sagche, which sometimes it means defilement, but Rinpoche is not interpreting it quite that same way. He's talking about something that is prone to falling. Lows. Rinpoche kyang de sagche tamche dungyawa.
Sakye se ya de ma nipa men rowa, nzen rowa, di nani sakye ki gewa se ya de, sakwa de chi ba se.
What I mean by
Di zane tab ka cha sakye de la, toni ki je tep songwa yi na, pe da zren churang ka sa jing chi na. Sa zupo kan si ki yuri. Pinto yuri we si na, pinto yuri, nipa yuri, pinyo yuri de. Yine sakye ki chu rowa. Nima chila ti ge za de, kontro chi ki chi lan tre na, ge za de nipa mewa cha no kore. Dendi yin di zane, ti nipa mewa ma cha li hu na kare chi kore si di zane, sa jing chi zari sakye de la, toni ki chi sim ne. San ching king dang, san chayar dang, sa sungka de, memek pa, di mi jima tawe nga lan du, si nyam ya che ne. Ta pe chi yawa yi na, sa chik la pe yawa yi na, di na yin se ne. Ani lu da nga yi ki sakye ki gewa kanda sewa yi na, di yongso chokpa chama de la, de ki chi sima, toni ki korso mato pa ki chi sima songa yi na. Ani di ge cha de tun namyan zeya yo mar ta.
So this is very good to have this term clarified by Rinpoche. What this means is that if there is an action that's practiced, practice that's done with the body or the speech, and it's not sustained by wisdom, then it becomes weak, it becomes powerless, it becomes something that is prone to falling, meaning that whatever positive energy was created by that, if it encounters anger or other delusion, it can be destroyed in the continuum of the person who's done that action. So those actions, those sagche, of the body and the speech, are ones that are prone to falling. Whereas on the other side, when it's sustained by the wisdom, this insight into the emptiness of the three spheres of an action, the positive energy that's created through that action is not prone to being weakened or falling or being exhausted. It will be preserved forever. It will continue to be there and be strong. And so this is the significance of those sagche, those virtues of body and speech that are prone to falling, prone to being lost.
San chang king gansa rani mamek pa. San chang su yor jab yor tea mamek pa. Sa koranga mamek pa. Ta chama lang kor sum se ya de del se ki yori. Jimba tong ko yo na. Sakye ki jimba tong du nga zupo. Pesha lakpa la sim. Pesha tang, nga tang, yor pango te sum la. Ta si che ki yora. Ta te sami ki je tam du nga yang mamek pa. Pesha te yang memek pa, yer pango te yang memek pa sina rangi ji mada pa. Tongba ni ki tholan du sina gom jani yawa ina, te korang rangi ki gesa te, rangi ki nipa chimpo cha sarita.
So for instance, in the case of making a prostration, understanding or focusing on the three emptiness of the three spheres of the action would be, my body, the prostrator, that towards whom I'm prostrating, and the act of prostrating. All three of these would lack independent existence or inherent existence.
Good job.
Or in the act of giving, my body, then the money that I'm giving, the person, what I'm giving it to not see them, any of them, as existing independently with their own inherent existence, existing only interdependent on that action. So when an action is done in this way, then it becomes uncontaminated, pure, not prone to weakening or falling or being lost.
라소 아니다 때라 참자 요기 인트레.
So here we'll stop for today.
됐어 고. 나 야.
When there's awareness of the emptiness of myself, the prostrator, that whom I'm prostrating to, and the act of prostrating. Yes.
가르사?
The 자생행아 공반이 되는 코스는 미바데 양기야성아 쉬어이 건다.
야. 올라서 아니 때라 참자 요기. 다들 주티데. 아니 그시고 다든다 지마 추티 요담이 애직다고 다들라. I don't know. Next week we have teaching. I know. Next week the teaching is. Oh yeah, next week we have a teaching. The followers next week, the October 9th, no teaching. That day I have something in the morning and afternoon 12 o'clock. I have to go to the butterfly sanctuary blessing. Dadi dunta jima dela chutun yore. Ani dunta jima ke dawa jima ke tari gunyi modela. Ani zapimba dela chuti me. Ode shuyayi.
So next Saturday we have teaching, but the Saturday after that we're going to not have the teaching that week.
Dani Halloween. Rei tu chini mo tari sumche sokil kindo dini modela ani gondanga chu kyuje kandoke jange dan rei tu china kyuje tanda chindo ni chaji sikiyo ani ela lama Untitled Rinpoche chi pebro china peya gondo chi dini shu ani Rinpoche ka sungchu chi nang ani nga ke kandoke jange kyuje ma nga chu nyamda tuyana a tu chin peya borwa dini modela ngune se na ta juba ina dini mo chu dongo yore da.
So then on the ghost holiday, or Halloween, that is, we'll have practice of chut that day, and it would be good if I can invite Anam Tubten. And this holiday I really like. This is a holiday that I think really meant for Dharma practitioners.
I am not sure. I'm going to see the Untitled Rinpoche in the Zoom Monday morning. I asked him if he say yes, maybe he going to give the teaching before the Jew practice, short teaching. Okay.
And the chut practice we will do is called the bellowing laughter of the Dakinis, Kando Kekyam.
Lasso.
So let's stop here for today.
Pandin tsawe lama rinpoche dagi chiwara peme de shola kadin chimbe kone jesone kuson tuki nguju tsetu so. Omso de ramjan kyamne gyasu chinla tan denye tendre luwa mepe. Kebara chime seye laso ke tsewa ishe chinche tendere. Kekwe chinle karke kama pe kasu tonga chazo mewa. Ome suwe lamta nyamdo ke yunte tseka ke tere shabdes. Kanki sansom doje rankam so lekpara tenje longdo tambej. Sheju tesam gombe dude yesa den gembe chinle tachin sho. Panden lame nambara darba la keji samya lota mikesh. Chinze lekwara tongwe megu ke la me chen la sem la juba shu. Kewa kwendo yangda lama tang jeme chuke pe la long chuchi. Satan lam ke yende rabzo ne pa de la me ko nyo to shu.
O glorious and precious root Guru, please take seat of lotus at my crown. Caring for me in your great kindness, please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind. Om Swasti. May the blessings of infinite seas of our places of refuge, the force of the two truths' infallible interdependence, and especially the hosts of deities of immortal well-being, now rain down the magnificent splendor of their wisdom and power of longevity. The Lord of the dance of all victors' enlightened activity is Karmapa, your unquenchable thirst for the inner essence of his traditions, doctrines, of discourses, tantras, great seal, great perfection, and pith instructions, has brought the qualities of signs on the spiritual path, your experience and realization, to their full flowering. May your life be firm. May the wisdom mysteries of your body, speech, and mind be as perfectly firm as a Vajra's own immutable elements. May your gatherings of disciples who study and practice the sacred teachings of scripture and realization by listening, contemplation, and meditation cover the earth. May your activity reach its ultimate consummation. May I never for an instant develop wrong views of the glorious Guru's life and deeds, but with devotion, seeing all they do as excellent, may the Guru's blessing enter my mind. In all lives, may I never be parted from qualified Gurus, enjoy glory of Dharma, and by perfecting all qualities of the paths and stages, quickly attain the state of the glorious Guru.
Dachin simjin tamje lo ju sun do war sinje labda so ju lamda do war sinje labda so alan ba se war sinje labda so ba yi shi sun cha war sinje labda so da so nam je ju dan den ba ye je dar sam ba yi jin de ba da ne do ki so ba de ji ben so ne war she war sinje labda so Sancho Sincho Rinpoche Machi Pana Chichir Je Jiba Nyamba Meba Ya Kone Kondun Pewa Aisho Lasso Tuchi Nang Chama Any Tuchi Nang Jampa Tharchin Jampa Tharchin Sena Churang Sanji Cha Charida Ina Jampa Tharchin Ninjin Tharchin Ba Chena Churang Mune Ah Ya Tuchi Nang Chama Any Tagarang Yin Sam Yakin Da